Well, next we have the pleasure of speaking with the incumbent and the challenger candidates for State Senate District 5. We have with us tonight incumbent Senator Tyrel Bjerke. Thanks for coming by tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, take a minute and explain to the voters here in Kootenai County and in particularly District 5 why you're running for re-election.
Well, my life's been about service. I am the incumbent, your current senator for District 5. Just got done with the 67th legislative session. It's in two parts over 2 years. So we finished up the second part. I've been involved in leadership and politics a good portion of my life. People ask me all the time at this point, why are you doing this? And I said, it's because I continue to want to serve. In Boise, I'm on committees, health and welfare, and also the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee. So those are two committees that are quite involved. I'm the vice chair of the Senate Finance Committee, and so we handled the budget. And that's a lot to talk about, and I don't have a minute, but I'm looking forward to continuing the work that I've already started into the 68th legislative session.
All right, thanks. Well, speaking of the session that just ended,
yes,
could you tell us one good thing that came out of that session, as well as one not so good thing from your perspective?
A good thing for me, being on the Finance Committee and the vice chair, we made some pretty big changes to how we do the budget. Idaho's got a great process for doing the budget. It's somewhat the envy, I believe, of a lot of other states. But this year we made a kind of a tweak to it. It's been about 57 years since we've had any really demonstrable change in how we go about doing that budget. And what we did is we broke out the budgets into a maintenance budget separate from what would be the line item or the agency asks portion of the budget. That's a good thing. It's provided some more accountability and transparency to the budget process. Negative, it's a little bit harder to come up with that for me. I'm so engrossed in the process of being on health and welfare and JFAC. It starts early in the morning and goes late into the evening. I just felt a sense of heaviness. It was a little bit more difficult this half of the session. Don't know exactly. One of those things where you can feel like the tension, you can kind of cut it with a knife sometimes, and you can't quite pinpoint it. I don't know if it had to do with inner political issues within the caucus or, between the Senate and the House, but a lot of it might have something to do also with the change in the budget process. So although that was what I consider a positive thing, I think maybe there was some angst and maybe some folks that didn't feel that maybe that was the best pursuit, and which might have caused some peripheral kind of, upheaval, so to speak. So it's the best thing on one side, but then maybe the negative all wrapped up in the changes that we made with the budget process.
Makes sense. How would you assess the relationship between the governor's office and the legislature? And how do you see yourself making that relationship as effective as possible?
I see that relationship as our founders have designed it. There's an executive, there's a legislative, and there's judicial, and we all have a place and a role. Again, this budget process kind of proved out to be us exerting our control as a legislature. We are the ones that appropriate. It's our constitutional responsibility to have a balanced budget in Idaho. And I think to a certain extent, and I understand it from a leadership perspective, if I'm the governor of a state, I look at myself as the person in charge. That might not be a completely welcome change. But I also believe that there's a certain element of friction that happens in politics, and it happens in national politics, and it happens in state politics and local, that you do have to kind of rub things the wrong way every once in a while, that you can't just all kind of be walking in lockstep in the same direction, because we don't seek difficulty and change if we do that. I see. I had an opportunity to have a photo op with Senator Melissa Wintrow over a bill that we passed, and it was just, to me, a nice culmination of standing there with the governor and a senator that I supported a bill that she had moved forward, and I supported, wholeheartedly, and that we were able to have a bipartisan meeting and a picture taking with the governor. I think it's important to know that we're all part of a process. We need to respect each other's positions. And if we really care about the state and politics, we will put aside personal differences to work together for the betterment and the future of Idaho.
All right, thanks. Well, as you mentioned, you're on the Joint Finance and Appropriation Committee, so you spend a lot of time with the numbers. If you had to put a grade on the job that the legislature did in funding public education, what grade would that be?
That's an interesting one, because I support public schools. My wife's on a school board here in CDA 271. She supports public schools as well. There's a part of me that feels that, we also have a constitutional requirement to provide for public schools, a free, common, nothing's free, right? It's that's the biggest misnomer. But my grade, if you look at what we did in House Bill 1 and the special session, what we did with 292 and what we've just done with 521, we've had at least about a 3-year history of what I consider to be pretty good funding efforts towards public education. I think it was a 16.4 increase for the first half of the 67th legislative session. And of course, we made some drastic changes again this time, through 521. I can't look at that and say that we haven't done good things for funding for education. It would be really hard for someone to convince me that in this 3-year period of time between the special session and these two halves of the session, where we've given what I see as unprecedented amount of money to public education, you would have a hard time convincing me that we didn't get at least a B or B plus or an A. How that goes moving forward, we'll see. I know that it's still something that a lot of folks feel isn't appropriately funded. There's obviously people talking about levies again. 521 provides a lot of money to help out through facilities maintenance and some of those issues. My hope is that whatever we do when it comes to funding public education is that we hold them accountable, especially with results. But at the same time, we'll keep working on it.
Education funding is top of mind, and it's going to be for a while. It's a very important issue to a lot of folks.
Yes.
But we really appreciate you coming down and talking to the voters of District 5. If you wouldn't mind taking just a minute and offer any final thoughts you might have about the legislature in this race.
Just that I'm looking forward to. A lot of people ask, "Are you really going to do this again?" I go, "No." It's an extension of a life of service. It's important for me to get back in there and continue to fight for all Idahoans. It's not a glamorous position to be on JFAC, and health and welfare has its issues as well. But I'm there to legislate, and I'm there to govern. And hopefully what I've shown in this 2-year period in the 67th legislative session, that I'm a reasonable person whose votes prove that I have the best for Idaho in mind. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go down there once again and I'd be asking for that vote. It'd be kind of silly if I didn't at this point. But I appreciate the opportunity to come down here and chit chat and allow voters to see a little bit more about what I've done and what I hope to do in the future. And I appreciate the time.
Oh, we appreciate it too. Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.